Alright guys, it is now time for week 2 of my 2022 NFL season picks after a really fun but very sloppy week 1. It's nice to see NFL back, but of course my week 1 stands. I went 9-6-1, which is better than last year's time where I went, I think it was 7-9, but not good enough for my liking. I want to be over 75%. Corrections. And of course, here is the updated playoff standings and regular season at the season end of the day. In the AFC, it's the Dolphins with the bye, with Bills at Chargers, Browns at Steelers, and Ravens at Texans. And the NFC, it's the Vikings with the bye, with Giants at Eagles, Buccaneers at Saints, and the Bears at Seahawks. And my Super Bowl prediction would be the Bills crushing whoever it is in the NFC North, because the NFC, since I didn't really think of the playoff stuff recently because I've been so busy with other things. Alright, so now let's get to our week 2 picks, as we start off with Thursday night tonight. By the way, of course, fuck that exclusivity that NFL's having with Amazon. I'm not paying for it. I'm going to find some way to watch the game because I will not pay for that exclusivity bullshit. Fuck Amazon, fuck the NFL for doing that for Thursday night. But anyways, it is the Chargers at the Chiefs. As the Chiefs won the last one, the Chargers haven't beaten them since 2021, and the Chiefs haven't won at home against them since 2019. As the Chargers try to go to 2-0 for the first time since 2012, the Chiefs try to go 2-0 for the first time since 2020. So the Chargers, of course, beat the Raiders last week, looked really good both offensively and defensively. Meanwhile, the Chiefs crushed the Cardinals, to no one's surprise, last week, as well as both teams are trying to get to 2-0 and have the guaranteed lead in the AFC West, as they're the only teams that won, remember, last week in the AFC West. So, of course, the Chargers have beaten the Chiefs the last 2 times in Kansas City. True. And all the games, too, other than that season finale game in 2020 where the Chargers really spanked the Chiefs, but that's only because the Chiefs rested their starters. All the other games have either gone to overtime or have been very close. These last 2 years have been very close with each other, and it really could come down to that too, being very close. But of course, also remember last year too, the reason why Chargers beat the Chiefs in Kansas City was because the Chiefs had that period where they were struggling really bad. Like Mahomes threw like 2 interceptions or stuff like that. And that last one, if I remember correctly, helped get the Chargers to win. So, it'll be close. I wouldn't be surprised if the Chargers bit, but right now I'm going to have to pick the Chiefs for this one, since I think they're playing much better than they did around this time last year. But I won't be surprised if the Chargers do get it. Then we get to the Sunday action. Big one, the AFC, as the Dolphins are at the Ravens for the first time since 2017, as the Dolphins try to get to 2-0 for the first time since 2018, and the Ravens try to get to 2-0 for the first time since 2020. Dolphins won the last one. The Ravens haven't beaten them since 2019. And the Dolphins have not beaten the Ravens in Baltimore since 1997. The only time they've done that. So, of course, the Dolphins spanked the Patriots to no one's surprise. I'm not surprised. And the Ravens also crushed the Jets too. Again, no one's surprised. And it's really weird that the Ravens' stats look so terrible, even though they crushed the Jets both offensively and defensively. Lamar Jackson actually looked good for the first time in a long time. Really weird. So, of course, I'm going to pick the Ravens for this one, as I'm still not fully sold on the Dolphins. And, of course, they always struggle when they visit the Ravens. They have, like I said, they haven't beaten them since 1997. All the other games since have been Ravens wins by blowout. So, I'm picking the Ravens easily. Then, it's the Jets at the Browns for the first time since 2018, as the Jets try to avoid 0-2 for the 4th year in a row. Meanwhile, the Browns are 1-0 for the first time since 2004. Now trying to go 2-0 for the first time since 1993. The Jets won the last one. The Browns haven't beaten them since 2019. And the Jets haven't won in Cleveland since 2017. So, of course, the Jets got crushed by the Ravens. No one's surprised as Flacco's still starting as Zach Wilson's not ready yet. Meanwhile, the Browns, they almost choked it against the Panthers. But in the end, they pulled off the victory, even though their stats don't look really good. I'm picking the Browns for this one. They're much better than the Jets. It's going to probably be a blowout just like the Ravens were. Alright. Then it's an actual interesting one, as it's the Commanders at the Lions for the first time since 2020, as the Commanders try to get to 2-0 for the first time since 2011. The Lions, meanwhile, try to avoid 0-2 for the 4th year in a row. No, fifth year in a row, actually. No, yeah, fourth year in a row. No, third year in a row. God, I'm stupid. Anyways, the Lions won the last one. The Commanders haven't beaten them since 2019 when they were the Redskins, and they haven't won in Detroit since 2008. So, of course, the Commanders pulled off that impressive comeback victory on the Jaguars. Looked really good, too. Carson Wentz put up 4 touchdowns. He looked really good. Meanwhile, the Lions, after they were getting crushed by the Eagles, all of a sudden, they turned it around and put up an offensive showcase and almost pulled off the comeback. Offensively, the Lions looked really good. And how about that, too? They had more rushing yards than passing yards. 5th best rushing offense in the league right now. Man, are we back in 90s with Barry Sanders now? Because the Lions never had a good rushing offense since. Keep that momentum up, even though their defense has been horrible at letting the Eagles put up those many points. This could be another offensive blowout, too, just like it was against the Eagles. But you know what? I'm actually going to pick the Lions for this one, maybe an upset. That'll be interesting to see how the Commanders will do against a probably better offense with the Lions than it did the Jaguars. Speaking of the Jaguars, our next game is the Colts at the Jaguars. As the Jaguars try to avoid 0-2 for a second year in a row. Jaguars won the last one. The Colts haven't beaten them since 2021. They haven't won in Jacksonville since 2014. That long streak, remember. So the Colts, embarrassingly, how do you play that badly against the Texans down 20-3? Yeah, you made the comeback, but then you just tied. It's the first time the Colts tied since 1982 when they were in Baltimore. Like, that was just embarrassing. You should be thankful you tied at least. You should have crushed the Texans. Meanwhile, the Jaguars, they put up a good fight against the Commanders. They just couldn't get the win in the end. Trevor Lawrence looked pretty good as well. So, of course, I want to pick the Colts for this because they are vastly better than the Jaguars. But as we saw, since 2015, the Jaguars have regularly, non-stop beaten the Colts when they host them. No matter what, the Colts just cannot beat the Jaguars at Jacksonville, especially as we saw last year and the year before when the Jaguars got their only win. And of course, that's also compounded by how bad the Colts played against the Texans. So as much as I hate to say it, I'm going to have to pick the Jaguars for this one. And then watch, I pick the Jaguars, and then the Colts will finally win and end that streak after they ended losing week 1. But then we get to our next set of games, a big one in the NFC South, as this is the division lead on the line, as it's the Buccaneers at the Saints. Saints won the last 7. The Buccaneers haven't beaten them since 2018, as the Buccaneers try to go 2-0 for the second year in a row. The Saints try to go 2-0 for the first time since 2013. So anyways, the Buccaneers defensively crushed the Cowboys, which shows a lot of bad things with the Cowboys coming up very soon, even though their offense didn't look really good. Meanwhile, and that was a huge win, too, to start off the year, because I thought the Buccaneers easily could start 0-2. Meanwhile, the Saints, after looking really bad against the Falcons, they pulled off the comeback to get the win to start off the year with a win. And now it's time to get the division lead on the line. Whoever wins this leads the NFC South. And as always I've done the last few years, other than I think the Sunday night game last year, I'm going to pick the Saints for this one. As the Saints, remember these last few years, especially with Brady, they just have something in them that they can't lose to the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers keep struggling against them. And I think that's going to continue into week 2, especially since the Buccaneers offense did not look really good last week. Then it will be the Panthers at the Giants for the second year in a row, as the Panthers try to avoid 0-2 for the first time since 2020. The Giants try to get to 2-0 for the first time since 2016. The Giants won the last one. Panthers haven't beaten them since 2018, and they haven't won at East Rutherford since 2015. So the Panthers, meanwhile, they got crushed by the Browns. Then they pulled off that incredible comeback, but they couldn't get the win in the end. They actually put up a lot harder fight than I thought they were going to do. Meanwhile, the Giants, what the hell? They beat the Titans! Unbelievable! And Saquon looked like his former 2018 self. About time for once, because I thought he was going to be done after the last several years. Nice on them. Now, of course, this is a tough game to pick, because the Giants crushed the Panthers last year. Remember, they didn't just beat them, they crushed them. It was embarrassing. But I don't know if I would say the Giants have gotten better, though, either. I kind of think that win against the Titans might have been more like a self-inflicted wound on the Titans' part. And the Panthers, I think, did get better with having Baker on the team. So it might be a little bit weird, but actually in an upset pick, I'm going to pick the Panthers for this one. I trust them a lot more right now than I do the Giants, as I don't trust them really at all right now. Then, it's the Patriots at the Steelers for the first time since 2018. the Patriots won the last one. The Steelers haven't beaten them since 2018, and the Patriots haven't won in not Heinz Field anymore since 2017. The Patriots try to avoid 0-2 for the first time since 2001. The Steelers try to get to 2-0 for the first time since 2020. So the Patriots got crushed by the Dolphins. Honestly, I'm not really that surprised. Meanwhile, the Steelers played ugly. Their defense forced 5 turnovers on the Bengals, and they had to get bailed out at the end with their special teams blocking the extra point and the overtime to get the win. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals lost that game, and they did. Very impressive win for Steelers, even though they're not really good. So, going into the season, I probably would pick the Patriots for this because I do not think the Steelers are going to be good. But after the way both teams played this week, I'm going to pick the Steelers for this one. And now we get to the 4 p.m. games now, finally. As we start off with the Falcons at the Rams for the first time since 2016. As the Falcons try to avoid 0-2 for the 3rd year in a row. Meanwhile, the Rams try to avoid 0-2 for the first time since 2011. The Rams won the last one. The Falcons haven't beaten them since 2016, and they haven't won in St. Louis. Or the Rams haven't beaten them hosting the Falcons since 2007 when they were back in St. Louis. So, of course, the Falcons, doing the Falcons' ways, I guess, having a big 4th quarter lead and then choking it away as they lost by 1 point to the Saints. Very embarrassing. Meanwhile, the Rams got completely obliterated by the Bills on the kickoff game. I thought the Bills were going to win, but I didn't think they were going to outright destroy the Rams. They looked horrible on the kickoff game. Definitely not the start they want, as maybe they're going to be suffering a Super Bowl hangover too, just like the Bengals seem to be as well, because it also affects the winner too. It's not just a loser. But I'm going to pick the Rams for this one. Like, the Falcons, I think, are going to be, like, one of the worst teams in the league. Like, you should not have no trouble beating them. Then, it's the Seahawks at the 49ers. As the Seahawks won the last 4, the 49ers haven't beaten them since 2019. And they haven't won at home since 2018. As the Seahawks try to get to 2-0 for the first time since 2020. And the 49ers try to get to 2-0 for... I mean, I'm not... How did I have it at 1-0? They've lost. I don't know how that happened. I know they lost. That was weird. But anyways, 49ers try to avoid 0-2 for the first time since 2017. The Seahawks. What a stunning game that was. They embarrassed the Broncos, beating them at the end with that incredible defensive showcase. That was insane, even though stat-wise they don't look really good. Meanwhile, the 49ers, you did your part in the first half against the Bears, but then you choked it away and let Justin Fields run all over you. That was absolutely embarrassing, as Trey Lance looked horrible in this game. So, this is actually a big game right now for Seahawks. Get this, and they're in good position to take a 2-game lead over everyone else in the NFC West, which would be stunning, since I thought they were going to be like one of the worst teams in the league. Meanwhile, the 49ers desperately need this win now after choking it hard against the Bears. Now, even though they played horrible last week, the Seahawks played really good, and the Seahawks have that 4-game win streak against the 49ers. I'm going to pick the 49ers still to have a get-right game this week. And then it's the Bengals at the Cowboys for the first time since 2016. As the Cowboys won the last 4, the Bengals haven't beaten them since 2004. And they haven't won in Dallas, or actually Arlington, since 1988, for crying out loud. So the Bengals are trying to avoid 0-2 for the first time since 2020. The Cowboys are trying to avoid 0-2 for the first time since 2010. Not looking good for either teams, as the Bengals. I'm not surprised you lost to Steelers, especially with Burrow having 5 turnovers. But he did have that gutsy comeback to get the win at first before the Steelers blocked it. So even though they lost horribly, they managed to make the comeback and showing why Burrow might actually be up there as one of the better quarterbacks now after that incredible comeback, even though they couldn't win. Cowboys, meanwhile, what was that? It's bad enough that you lost to the Buccaneers, but the way you lost was horrible. Your offense was atrocious. It's one of the worst in the league right now. And then to make matters worse, Dak's now out for like 8 to 10 weeks. So now the season for the Cowboys is pretty much gone for, unless Cooper Rush the Cowboys all of a sudden make a giant comeback and hold on while Dak's away, or the NFC East takes such a giant shit like back in 2020 that the Cowboys can be competitive throughout the year still. So, yeah, not looking really good for either team right now, as they desperately try to avoid 0-2. I would have picked the Cowboys probably for this game for most of the year leading up to this week, but now with that injury of Dak, I'm going to pick the Bengals for this one. Maybe they'll make the comeback against the Cowboys. Then it's the Texans at the Broncos for the first time since 2018. The Broncos won the last one. The Texans haven't beaten them since 2018, and they haven't won and the Broncos haven't won at home against them in Denver since 2016. So, of course, the Texans got their very first tie in franchise history when they tied to the Colts. As embarrassing it was for the Colts to not beat you and force a tie, that also got applied to you too, Texans. You had the Colts on the ropes and you choked it away. You better be thankful too that you're able to just tie it. That was embarrassing. Meanwhile, the Broncos, that was also embarrassing too. How do you lose to the Seahawks? They shut you down defensively too. And then you did that stupid last minute of the game, wasting all that time, finally doing the timeout, and then going for the 64-yard field goal. You only go for that field goal if your offense is really, 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 really bad, or you have Justin Tucker as your kicker. And I don't think the offense is going to be that bad to try and do it, nor do you have Justin Tucker. So that was just dumb. But now this is a get-right game, hopefully for the Broncos, as I'm going to pick them. And if they lose to the Texans, they are definitely going to be in a world of hurt to start off the season. Then it's the Cardinals at the Raiders for the first time since 2014. The Raiders won the last one. The Cardinals haven't beaten them since 2014. They haven't won, and the Raiders haven't won hosting the Cardinals since 2006. As the Cardinals try to avoid a 0-2 for the first time since 2018, the Raiders try to avoid a 0-2 for the first time since 2018. So, the Cardinals, to my no surprise, got absolutely obliterated by the Chiefs. Was anyone really expected otherwise, as their defense looked horrible? Meanwhile, the Raiders, their offense did not play really good against the Chargers whatsoever. They definitely looked like the team I thought they were going to be, overrated. Now, this game could be an offensive showcase, too. Interesting to see that, maybe. Although, I trust the Raiders right now more than I do the Cardinals, especially with the Cardinals' horrible defense. So I'm going to pick the Raiders for this one. Then we get to Sunday night, as it's the Bears at the Packers, as they always got forced this game on us on Sunday night, as the Packers won the last 6. The Bears haven't beaten them since 2018, and they haven't won Green Bay since 2015, as the Bears try to get to 2-0 for the first time since 2013. Meanwhile, the Packers try to avoid an 0-2 for the first time since 2006. So, of course, the Bears, what a big comeback that was. You looked so horrible in the first half against the 49ers, and then you made the comeback to get the win. Very impressive, the surprise to start. Meanwhile, the Packers, just like last year, got obliterated open week, and that's even worse, too, because it's against the Vikings, so now they're going to have the tiebreaker against you till later on in the year when you face them again. Not looking good right there, but of course, like I always gotta say, just like Aaron Rodgers said years ago, RELEX. You're still gonna win the NFC North, and you'll still probably get the division. Home field advantage. So relax, it's just one game, but definitely not looking good either way. But it's the host of the Bears. We know the history of that, so I'm gonna pick the Packers for this one. And if they actually lose to the Bears, then they might have to start being a little bit worried about that. And then we get to the first of 2 Monday night games. No idea why they did instead of week 1. So, we start off with the Titans at the Bills for the first time since 2018. The Titans won the last 2. The Bills haven't beaten them since 2019. And the Titans haven't won in Buffalo since 2012, as the Titans try to avoid 0-2 for the first time since 2012. Meanwhile, the Bills try to go to 2-0 for the first time since 2020. The Titans, what was that? You had the Giants on your ropes and you lost to them? Absolutely embarrassing that you let Saquon run all over you. Meanwhile, the Bills, absolutely absolutely incredible victory over the Rams, showing why they are definitely the Super Bowl contender in the AFC North. The AFC. Now, of course, the Titans have beaten the Bills the last 2 times in Nashville, but like I said, that was in Nashville, and the Bills almost beat them last year if they didn't get that aggressive 4th goal line try and failed. So I'm going to pick the Bills this time around, especially as they're hosted. And then finally, it's the Vikings at the Eagles for the first time since 2016. The Vikings won the last 2. The Eagles haven't beaten them since 2016. And the Vikings are trying to get to 2-0 for the first time since 2016. The Eagles trying to get to 2-0 for the first time since 2016 as well. So the Vikings obliterated the Packers. Very impressive victory. They needed that to start the year strong. And meanwhile, the Eagles, at first it looked like they were going to do what they normally did against the Lions, and then they almost choked it away. So definitely not looking good defensively right there for the Eagles, as this will be an interesting game with the early NFC number one seed lead at the moment on the line. That's going to be very big for both teams. Now, going to this game, I would have picked the Eagles, but you know what, right now? I'm actually going to pick the Vikings for this one. I trust their offense more than I do the Eagles, and right now I don't trust the Eagles' defense at the moment, whereas the Vikings' defense seems to be playing pretty solid against the Packers. So, those are my picks for Week 2. I cannot wait for Chargers at Chiefs tonight, which I'm going to have to find some way to watch it, because I will not do that exclusive subscription crap. Fuck that shit. So, my picks for this week are the Chiefs over the Chargers, Ravens over the Dolphins, Browns over the Jets, Lions over the Commanders, Jaguars over the Colts, Saints over the Buccaneers, Panthers over the Giants, Steelers over the Patriots, Rams over the Falcons, 49ers over the Seahawks, Bengals over the Cowboys, Broncos over the Texans, Raiders over the Cardinals, Packers over the Bears, Bills over the Titans, and Vikings over the Eagles. So, see you guys next time for Week